Welcome to LinesToGo installation videos. Today we will be replacing brake lines on a 2002 Ford F-250 Super Duty using LinesToGo part number BLF-144-SS. While this particular installation is being performed on a 2002 Ford F-250 Super Duty, this set of lines will also fit the following year, make, and models as shown on your screen now. LinesToGo lines are made using original equipment end forms and fittings that are CNC bent for an easy and precise installation. We have also upgraded to stainless steel braided Teflon hoses for rust protection and to prevent surface fouling. These have an unlimited shelf life and anti-static PTFE liner. This set of LinesToGo lines are made using 304L stainless steel for rust resistance that exceeds OEM standards. Tech tip: disconnect the battery before working on a vehicle to reduce the risk of shorting out the battery on tools or lines. LinesToGo lines are made with a sectional design for easier installation. We also use color-coded unions on our sectioned lines. Just match the colors at the connections. Make sure to depressurize the fuel system before starting the installation. Tools required: 5/16 and 1/2 inch sockets and ratchet, 5/16, 7/16, 1/2 inch, 9/16 and 10mm wrenches, pliers and cutting pliers, flat blade screwdriver, drain pan, jack and jack stands. The level of difficulty for this installation is considered to be medium. To depressurize the fuel system, locate the fuel pump fuse using your owner's manual and remove it. Start the vehicle and wait for the engine to stall. Make sure to replace the fuse once completed. Start by disconnecting the negative battery terminal using a 5/16 wrench. Open the clamp on the intake air filter housing and lift up on the forward section to remove it from the vehicle. Disconnect the electrical connector for the mass airflow sensor and position the intake air tube off to the side. Use a 1/2 inch socket to remove the 3 bolts that secure the metal bracket that supports the air filter housing and remove the metal bracket from the vehicle. Use a 5/16 socket to remove the bolt that secures the charcoal canister. Remove the canister from the bracket and position it off to the side. Use a 1/2 inch socket to remove the 3 bolts that secure the canister bracket and remove the bracket from the vehicle. Remove the primary and secondary brake lines from the plastic clips. Use a 9/16 wrench to remove the 2 rearward threaded fittings from the ABS module. Use a 9/16 wrench to remove the 2 fittings at the master cylinder. Remove the primary and secondary brake lines from the vehicle. Raise and support the vehicle. You should be able to access the top of the front flex hoses without removing the wheels, but if more room is needed, the wheels can be removed using a 21mm socket. Use a 7/16 wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the left front flex hose. Use a 9/16 wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the front driver's side port in the ABS module. Open the plastic clip on the frame rail on the driver's side of the engine and remove the brake lines from the clip. Remove the left front brake line from the vehicle. Open the plastic clip located near the driver's side engine mount and remove the line from the clip. Use a pair of cutting pliers to cut the right front brake line near the plastic clip. Use a 9/16 wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the front central port in the ABS module. Remove the driver's side section of the right front brake line from the vehicle. Underneath the vehicle, remove the right front brake line from the plastic clips along the crossmember. Use a 7/16 wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the right front flex hose. Remove the passenger side section of the right front brake line from the vehicle. Next, the fuel tank will need to be removed as the rear brake line is run behind it. Use a flat blade screwdriver to loosen the clamps at the fuel filler hoses. Remove the two hoses from the metal fuel filler neck. Place a support underneath the fuel tank. Use a 1/2-inch socket to remove the two bolts that secure the fuel tank straps. Start to lower the fuel tank while guiding the fuel filler hoses over the top of the frame. Once the tank is lowered enough, remove the two vent hoses, one located at the front of the fuel tank, the other at the rear. Remove the fuel supply and return quick connections by depressing the plastic tabs. Disconnect the electrical connector that goes to the sending unit. Continue to lower the fuel tank and remove it from underneath the vehicle. Use a 7/16 wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the rear flex hose. If the fitting is seized to the line, you can cut the line close to the fitting and then remove it using a socket or wrench. Use a pair of cutting pliers to cut the rear brake line near the front of the fuel tank and remove the rearmost section of the rear brake line from the vehicle. Use a pair of cutting pliers to cut the rear brake line near the front of the vehicle at the factory union. Remove the rear brake line from the plastic clips along the frame. Use a 1/2-inch socket to remove the bolt that secures the electrical connectors beside the transfer case. Remove the middle section of the rear brake line from the vehicle. Use a 9/16 wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the front passenger side port in the ABS module. Remove the frontmost section of the rear brake line from the vehicle. At the rear axle, use a 7/16 wrench to remove the two threaded fittings from the rear flex hose union. Remove the fitting from the left rear flex hose using a 7/16 wrench and remove the left rear brake line from the vehicle. Remove the fitting from the right rear flex hose using a 7/16 wrench. Remove the right rear axle line from the metal clip above the rear differential and remove the line from the vehicle. To begin the installation of your new stainless steel LinesToGo brake lines, start by installing the left rear axle line labeled 06A into position. Start one fitting into the left rear flex hose and the other fitting into the rear flex hose union. Tighten both fittings using a 9/16 wrench. Next, install the right rear LinesToGo axle line labeled 06B into position and secure it into the metal clip. Start one fitting into the rear flex hose union and the other fitting into the right rear flex hose. Tighten both fittings using a 9/16 wrench. Next, install the rearmost section of the rear brake line labeled 05C into position. Secure the line into the plastic clips along the frame. Start the rear threaded fitting into the top of the rear flex hose. Next, install the middle section of the LinesToGo rear brake line labeled 05B into position and secure the line into the clips. Connect the two sections of line using the supplied union, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Next, install the front section of the rear brake line labeled 05A into position. Start the front threaded fitting into the forward passenger side port in the ABS module by hand. Secure the line into the plastic clips. Connect the sections using the supplied union, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Tighten the unions using a 1/2-inch and a 9/16 wrench. Tighten the fittings in the ABS module and the rear flex hose using a 9/16 wrench. Next, install the passenger side section of the right front LinesToGo brake line labeled 04B into position. Secure the line into the plastic clips along the crossmember. Start one fitting into the right front flex hose and tighten it using a 9/16 wrench. Next, install the driver's side section of the right front LinesToGo brake line labeled 04A into position. Start one fitting into the front central port in the ABS module by hand. Connect the two sections of line together using the supplied union, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Tighten the union using a 10mm and a 1/2-inch wrench. Tighten the fitting in the ABS module using a 7/16 wrench. Next, install the left front LinesToGo brake line labeled 03 into position. Start one fitting into the front driver's side port in the ABS module by hand. Start the other fitting into the left front flex hose. Secure the line into the plastic clips at the frame. Tighten both fittings using a 9/16 wrench. Next, install the primary LinesToGo brake line labeled 01 into position. Start one fitting into the rear port in the master cylinder by hand and the other fitting into the passenger side rear port in the ABS module. Secure the line into the plastic clip. Tighten the fitting in the master cylinder using a 7/16 wrench and the fitting in the ABS module using a 9/16 wrench. Next, install the secondary LinesToGo brake line labeled 02 into position. Start one fitting into the front port in the master cylinder and the other fitting into the driver's side rear port in the ABS module. Secure the line into the plastic clips. Tighten the fitting in the master cylinder using a 9/16 wrench and the fitting in the ABS module using a 7/16 wrench. Bleed all four wheels using a 10mm wrench, making sure to keep the master cylinder reservoir topped up with fluid. Use a 1/2-inch socket to secure the electrical connectors beside the transfer case. Replace the fuel tank underneath the vehicle and begin to raise it into position. Once the tank is high enough, connect the electrical connector that goes to the sending unit. Reconnect the two vent hoses, one at the front of the tank and the other at the rear. Connect the supply and return line quick connect fittings. Continue to raise the tank into position while guiding the fuel filler hoses above the frame rail. Use a 1/2-inch socket to replace the two bolts that secure the fuel tank straps. Connect the two filler hoses to the filler neck and secure the clamps using a flat blade screwdriver. Replace the bracket that supports the charcoal canister and secure the 3 bolts using a 1/2-inch socket. Replace the bracket that supports the intake air filter housing and secure the 3 bolts using a 1/2-inch socket. Replace the forward section of the intake air filter housing into position. Replace the charcoal canister and secure the clamp using a 5/16 socket. Connect the mass airflow electrical connector and secure the rear section of the air filter housing using the clamp. Connect the negative battery terminal using a 5/16 wrench. This concludes the installation of stainless steel brake lines on a 2002 Ford F-250 Super Duty using LinesToGo part number BLF-144-SS. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or would like to purchase the lines you saw today, please call us at 1-855-781-5992. Email us at info@linestogo.com or check out our website link below. Don't forget to take advantage of our free next day shipping. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, and we will see you in our next video.